I am not a philosopher. I am not a passionate psychologist or an experienced economist. And most importantly, I am not your theory of knowledge teacher. So if you're hoping for an entire dissertation or insightful perspective on ethics, morals, and human nature, you can turn to the other 20 TED Talks that discuss that, or Hank Green's Crash Course. Instead, I will provide the perspective of your everyday 17-year-old student. Today I ask the questions, why do we do what we do? Do we lie to ourselves about our motives for what we do? Are our actions truly altruistic and done with good intentions? Is that sustainable? Or in simple terms, is it all true in altruism? Yeah. Let's begin by attempting to define the term altruism. Altruism refers to the disinterested and selfless concern for the well-being of others. But for the purposes of this speech, let's consider that an altruistic action is an action that benefits another person while requiring the agent to sacrifice something. Let us also assume that they do not expect anything in return. That is certainly selflessness with a capital S. That sounds incredible. People helping others out of the goodness of their heart, allowing the power of friendship to triumph with the most pure intentions behind an action without it being intrinsically self-serving? And what about the other part of the definition? Disinterested. What if I told you that that is quite literally impossible? Consider this. I'm sure many of you want to be doctors, and perhaps some of you are. Many want to be doctors because they truly believe that they can benefit other people and make a difference in people's lives. But surely that's not the only thing that factors into your decision making. Can you confidently tell me that you haven't considered the financial stability and recognition that follows this career path? It's perfectly reasonable if you have. After all, it's about truly making a difference in people's lives. What about those of you who graciously gave your friend last Wednesday's math homework? Maybe that was a truly selfless sacrifice. Or maybe that was you not wanting to disappoint your friend. Either way, you're hindering their education, and that's not very altruistic. What about student tutors who spend their time to help out an academically challenged student? Think about how kind, how selfless, and how good this will look on their college application. Let's look at a more extreme example of altruism, where someone endangered their own life, their own safety, for the well-being of someone else. Picture a deserted railway station where two people, Teddy and X, are waiting. Suddenly, tragedy strikes as Teddy falls onto the railway tracks. But wait, suddenly, X rushes in and heroically saves the day. What an amazing altruistic action, right? Wrong. The truth behind X's motivation adds a complex layer to the scenario. Guilt. Not only does saving Teddy save Teddy, but it also saved X. If X chose not to save Teddy, then the weight it would have on his moral conscience would be too much to bear, and the mark it would leave on his self-image would be permanent. X's altruistic action was motivated by his emotions and self-serving intentions. This could be indicative of egoism instead, which suggests that self-interest is the foundation for morality. Okay, so altruism doesn't exist. So what? Does it matter? Are you going to be the person to tell a billionaire not to donate millions of dollars to poor, helpless orphans? Just because they want the recognition? It is unreasonable to expect true altruism all the time because we are arguably innately selfish and thus must have lower moral standards. Despite this, it is important to argue the alternative, that altruism does exist because believing in the possibility of altruism allows us to be more kind and compassionate and empathetic people, improving our society. Although this sounds amazing, is it possible for all of us to be completely altruistic all the time? Imagine X managed to save Teddy, but this time he got caught in the railway track himself. It was a seemingly amazing, admirable, altruistic action, but was it worth it if the moral outcome is the same? When does altruism become martyrdom? Where do we draw the line, and ultimately, is it sustainable to be altruistic? Altruism begins to become unsustainable when everyone starts practicing self-sacrificial and excessive altruism. With everyone being helped, more people would have to sacrifice their well-being as a cost. Let's dial it back into a more relatable scenario. Let me ask you all another question. Have you ever met a people pleaser? Yes? No? Please, take a second to look around you. Now look at me. It's me. I'm the people pleaser. At least I consider myself a recovering people pleaser. These traits initially revealed themselves on the first day of elementary school where I met my first friend on the bus. My 6-year-old self had an instinctive altruistic sense, and as all kids are, I was new to socializing, so I did everything in my power to demonstrate what a fantastic friend I was by committing great acts of service, such as holding her books, lending her parts of my lunch, doing her homework for her, all with the most compassionate and selfless intentions. But what I didn't realize was that over the next 4 years, these altruistic actions would result in 4 years of intense bullying, and that all my acts of kindness had transformed in me going out of my way to benefit her, ignoring my needs and boundaries, persevering through the torment just to ensure the well-being of my so-called friend. And even after I changed schools and the bullying stopped, I didn't change with it. It didn't change when I was 8 and gave away my favorite Barbie to make another kid happy. It didn't change when I was 13 and stayed after school, missing my school bus to help a friend find their missing phone. And it didn't change when I was 15 and overcommitted, telling a friend that I would help them, pulling 2 all-nighters and ignoring 5 other projects of my own. With all these experiences, I thought I was being a truly selfless person and doing the most morally dignified thing. But for all my altruistic actions and for every act of kindness and insignificant sacrifice, I had one self-serving intention. I just wanted every single person ever to like me. And even if we ignore my selfish intention, it doesn't get rid of the fact that I was tiring myself out. Altruism is exhausting, okay? And no, I am not talking about going to a soup kitchen or going to the beach and picking up a single plastic straw. No. I'm talking about the debilitating pressure to be the best person you can be at the expense of yourself. We need altruism to benefit our society and advance our society to become a more safe, inclusive, and kinder world. But it is not always the greatest choice, and we must consider what is best for us as individuals in the process. Is it worth it if people pleasers are good people just for the sake of being perceived as a decent person by society? And their motivations and intentions are all driven by this overpowering guilt and pressure to perform. If a poor person gives his last $5 to charity, is that altruistic action logical? Should this type of altruism be celebrated? Is running into a burning building noble or self-sacrificial? True altruism, without selfish intentions and personal satisfaction, can be difficult and demanding. It is difficult to devote ourselves to others while overlooking our own well-being. While overlooking our own well-being. We need altruism. We need to have a balance between caring for others and caring for ourselves. And we can learn to be more compassionate people, but we cannot forget to be kind to ourselves. We can learn to care for other people, but we cannot help other people before we learn to help ourselves. And sometimes it's best to stay away from the railway tracks. At least that's what I find to be true about altruism. The rest is up to you. Thank you.